Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the South African Cricket Podcast. My name is Mpho and Tim. I've got Tim Delace here with me. Tim, how are you doing?
Considering there were 48 hours for a World Cup semi-final, very, very good. Very good.
Yeah, very, very good. And yeah, we'll talk about New Zealand and what it could bring. I hate World Cup semi-finals in the middle of the week because our attentions are diverted elsewhere with our daily activities and not necessarily on the cricket. But remember, this is South Africa's #1 cricket podcast. You can follow us at SA Cricket Pod on X. We're still trying to figure out this. We used to have like live shows on X. We're trying to get through that, but yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's changed at X in terms of Elon Musk. But you can follow us there because we bring you South African cricket content there. You can like and subscribe on the YouTube channel at South African Cricket Podcast, also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're an audio person like myself who wants to listen and not see our beautiful faces, and finally, to help support us. We don't do this a lot, and we should do it a lot. Please, you can buy some coffee at buymeacoffee.com/SA Cricket Pod. The QR codes on your screens. Also, you can click on that and take there. We're trying to be technologically advanced. All your contributions will go to growing the show and enhancing the product that you see. And we've done a revamp and everything else. So thank you very much for all the support. Today, what we're talking about, Proteas men making the World Cup semi-finals, Proteas women winning the ODI series, but not closing out the last game like in the T20s. And then we'll just go through, we'll do a quick roundup of the domestic one-day cup fixtures. One-day cup started this weekend, and we'll just give you that. We'll do a more in-depth show later this week, potentially post the World Cup semi-final. Yeah, it might be in between a post-mortem or something, but we do promise to dedicate shows to the one-day cup. We know it is short, but in a World Cup cycle, it's really, really tough to include that. So we'll give you some highlights and we'll go in depth once the World Cup is bedded down and everything else. Anyway, let's now move to the Proteas men. The Proteas men this week, since we last saw you, played a game against the West Indies. They also played a game against Zimbabwe. The game against the West Indies, as I bring this up, do apologize for that. South Africa beat the West Indies by 9 wickets, having been set a total of 176. South Africa restricted the West Indies to 176. The wickets fell to Kagiso Rabada, 2 for 22, Lungingiti, 3 for 30, Corbin Bosch, 2 for 31. And we only needed 3 batters to get to the 177 set by the West Indies in 16.1 overs. 82 from Markram, 46, Quinton de Kock, 47 of 24, and Ricks, 45 not out of 28. Markram was also not out there. And then the game yesterday against Zimbabwe is largely a dead rubber as we had qualified for the semi-finals, but it was a beautiful celebration of African cricket. We restricted Zimbabwe to 153 for 7. Sikandar Raza scoring 73 or 43 balls, kind of stitching that innings together. We saw Clive Madande 26 for 20. In the bowling attempt with Rabada and Janssen and Maharaj rested, George Linder took 1 for 22, Mapaka 2 for 21, and Ngiti 1 for 29. Nokia 1 for 29, Corbin Bosch 2 for 40. Aiden bowled 1 over for 11 runs. In the chase, it was a little bit nervy at times, but Ricks 31 of 22, Brevis 42 of 18, Miller 22 of 16, Stubbs 21 of 24, and George Linder 30 of 21. And that's the end of our Super 8s, Tim. My first question to you is, we're moving to the semi-final. We're playing New Zealand in the semi-final. We did beat India in the Super 8s. People are calling us favorites. Does this team have any weaknesses?
That is a good question. Does it have any weaknesses? This is going to sound arrogant, but on the face of it, it doesn't. The only weakness that this team has is it hasn't won an ICC white ball World Cup. That's the only weakness. It's got the World Test Championship in the cabinet. This is a different kettle of fish. This is a standalone World Cup. That for me, it hasn't yet got over the line after several opportunities. I look at the teams, and you're right. I look at the teams now. A, how they're playing. B, fitness. C, what they have in terms of batting and bowling. And we are the best team. We know T20 World Cups does not mean that you're going to go on to win it, because that in T20 you do get those one-off games. You do lose because of the nature of this competition. But I do genuinely believe of all the teams that are left, we are the best and we are playing the best cricket without a doubt.
Yeah, you could say so, but having watched India yesterday and them discovering that Sanju Samson still exists, you kind of have a situation where we might play the same team twice to win this. Twice. So you're going to play New Zealand again, and you're going to play India again. With the nature and the vagaries of T20, my worry is they figure out what we do. Right? Against India, our top order did not fire. Our middle order came through, similar to what happened against Zimbabwe, and that works. Against New Zealand, it was a little bit more easier in terms of that game. But essentially, the way this team is set up and how good the South African team is that whenever one part of the team doesn't play well, the other part does. Yesterday was the first time that Corbin Bosch didn't bowl well, but Kwena, Anwich, George Linder came through. And to a certain extent, the way I look at this Proteas team is more of a squad mentality rather than a team mentality, where we want the squad is working together as a team. And I'm calling it a squad because it's more than the 11, but in the 11, it's the team and everyone's playing as a team. But when I look at an India, and to a certain extent in New Zealand, right, the way T20 is set up right now, you just need one guy to go berserk and you are behind the 8 ball. West Indies will tell you that without Sanju Samson, they're still in this tournament, right? Yeah. But the Proteas have managed to nullify the best players in each of the teams. Sikandar Raza yesterday gave me a worry because I sat there going, you're letting him, be a superstar. And to a certain extent, that wasn't a game of consequence. But for me, I just sat there going, oh, this is T20. Things like this happen. What would you, because from an analysis perspective, right, South Africa is better than New Zealand pretty much across all of the key metrics. Maybe fielding, they're better. New Zealand's better at fielding. But from a batting perspective, I think South Africa's batting lineup is better than New Zealand. And from a bowling perspective, I think we're better. The only problem is that gulf is not too far wide. And you just need one of those guys. Because I think the guys who can peak and take the game away from you, New Zealand has Glenn Phillips, Mark Chapman, all those guys. They can, on their day, do something. Is there a way for us to mitigate this on the day thing where, if somebody goes off, it doesn't mean that we're out of the World Cup?
One thing I have noticed prior to the Zimbabwean game is when moments are going against us, when there's a big over, for example, we concede 15 on an over, or we lose 2 wickets in 3 overs, we have a mentality to come together. It's not as if we just sailed through this tournament. That mentality, for me, should come back into fore should we find ourselves a cropper at some point against New Zealand. We are much better mentally than in previous World Cups. I think we know that we should have won the last one. I think we deep in our in their hearts, they know that that was the one they should have won. And that is sort of driving this team over the line. It's driving this team. It's giving them that inspiration. So if, for example, we are 20-3 against New Zealand, I'm not going to panic because of what I've seen from this World Cup already. I know that we can come out of this situation. I know that while New Zealand have 2 or 3 really good players, they don't have a good team. They're not playing particularly well. Yes, you're right. A Mitchell special could knock us out of the World Cup. That could happen. But that can't come into your head in a T20 format because that happens. It's just part of life. I do believe, mentality-wise, which was something we did not have prior to Shukri taking over, we are much better placed in taking over the situations and taking control of them to get the upper hand in tight situations.
Yeah. And we call them Shukri's character monsters because of that, right? I think from a character and a mentality perspective, what you'll be contrary to what you're probably hearing from the Indian media, they want South Africa. I think, there's news around Ashdeep Singh telling his dad, if we meet them in the final, we're going to beat them. My thing is this: India had us against the ropes at 20-3. You lose 75% of your T20s if you're 3 down in the power play. This team came back from there at the start of that game to winning that game. If you have any doubts or any worries as a South African fan, look to that game, because that game kind of told you the type of players this team had. And it was a game of stakes. It wasn't a game of no stakes like yesterday's game against Zimbabwe. It was a game of real consequence. And the South African team pulled a win from a position where India normally win from there. But we did it so much better. We're reading conditions better. We're handling the pressure better. The question for the Indian team is, can they handle pressure? The thing for me against New Zealand is, in a semi-final, if they put you under pressure, what's going to happen? And this team has given us time and time again evidence that they can do this, that they can manage this, that even if Kagiso is having a bad game, remember, we've gone through this tournament with Kagiso only taking 4 wickets. Yet, we're in the semi-final, and this bowling attack is the best bowling attack. What does that mean? Lungi stepped up. Marco steps up. Corbin Bosch steps up. Corbin Bosch stepped up so much that he put Anrich Nokia on the bench. Anrich has an IPL contract. He's had IPL contracts for years. Corbin's only got his first IPL contract last year. So, if there's any worry or doubt around Wednesday, it should be nullified by the fact that Shukri's character monsters have been in worse positions and have come through. And this team is playing like a team, so much confidence that any situation they find themselves in, they'll get out. They managed Sikandar Raza yesterday very well, even though he was causing us problems. They managed the West Indies very well from a bowling perspective. The West Indies bowling improved since the series in South Africa. They managed Shamar Jovis really well. They let Burma get 15 runs in 4 overs, and they still won. They still scored 187 runs. That gives you an answer. But again, when I look at the last game we played against New Zealand, Marco was the key. We had them in trouble up front. New Zealand's strength is that top 4. It's actually that top 6. They're similar to us. They've got 6 batters that bat, and then the rest are all-rounders and bowlers. The difference we think between us and New Zealand, Tim, is the Mitchell Santner, who comes in at 7, and Jimmy Neesham, who comes in at 8. They've gone with Jimmy as the all-rounder, and I don't rate Jimmy Neesham's bowling, right? But outside of that, their bowlers aren't as decorated as South Africa's bowlers, but they can cause damage at any time. But Seifert, Allen, Ravindra, Phillips, Chapman, and Mitchell, similar to South Africa's top 6. The only difference is I think South Africa's top 6 has better quality. What we did is we put them under pressure at the top. If you put this New Zealand team under pressure, don't let Phil Allen to go, don't let Seifert to go, navigate Ravindra and Glenn Phillips, you are in this game. You are truly in this game. If you can get 2 wickets in the power play and you can get 2 wickets regularly throughout the game and just put pressure on them, the way Ngidi does, the way Bosch does, the way Maharaj does when he bowls, we are in this game. It's going to come down, I think, to how well we bowl. If we bowl really well in this game, we're in it. The only problem is the dew factor in the Mumbai Stadium. I think it's slightly smaller than Ahmedabad, but the dew could be problematic there as well. So bowling second is going to be tough in terms of defending your total. But again, this team has done it before in India, in a bigger ground, in a bigger stage. So I'm not worried. I'm just saying that that's the path that New Zealand want. New Zealand wants a strong start with their batters so that you give Mitchell, you give Chapman a chance to go big at the end. What we've done throughout this entire in that game was that they couldn't do it. They ended up at 173, and we knew that, hey, that is below par, 30 below par. You saw in Ahmedabad, West Indies scored 190, and even then we all saw that it was below par. So I think even in Mumbai, probably 200 should be your number. It's a smaller ground, so it might even be 220 is your number. So for us, that's the only, is it Kolkata? I think we're playing in Kolkata tomorrow. But either way,
Eden Gardens,
Eden Gardens, right? So, we're gonna have to navigate that. It might take a little bit more spin, but from my perspective, that's how you put New Zealand under pressure. Tim, how do you see? How do we navigate this New Zealand game?
Yeah, in normal circumstances, you're gonna see more spin on these pitches, I would imagine. We've been fortunate that we haven't had spinning tracks. Some of the pitches in the second group of Super 8 fixtures have been, shall we say, very spin friendly. I don't think New Zealand have that in terms of the spinning department. Outside of Satna, I think Satna's quality. I'm not worried about the others. I'm really not worried. So my only real concerns are you get Mitchell early, whenever he comes in. You get Phillips early, and you see you off Matt Henry with the new ball. Matt Henry with the new ball has been incredible in this World Cup. Those 3 have bad games. For me, the game is all but over. It really is. You're right to say that they have got other players that can get them out of fire, and Chapman has had a couple of good games, but really, those are the 3 that are going to get them to the final. If everything clicks for them, those are the things. So in the same way that we saw off Bumrah, I'm happy if we see off Henry. Honestly, he doesn't quite have the same. What's the word? Quite the same range as Bumrah, but in this format, he's incredibly impressive. And he could put us in 20 for 3. I could see if he gets early swing, it is possible. It absolutely is possible. So if we can see him off and get, I rate Mitchell highly. Mitchell and Phillips out cheaply, I think the game is done. With the caveat that's just somebody else on their day could take it away from us. But I think if that happens in our favor, we would have too many players that would have to have an off day. We can have, as you say, we can have a Bosch having an off day or a Barda having an off day. It would require, from my perspective, 3 or 4 players having a sizable off day, which is not impossible, but I just think that we we've got the bit between our teeth at the moment. Even though Rob Walter will know our players inside and out and our plans fairly, he'll know what the players do. He knows our players. There's no getting away from that. So, but we're different kettle of fish now. We really are. We're a team to be reckoned with. Absolutely.
I thought that in the first game, but then what then ended up happening was South Africa was just Marco was just dominant at the top. And Marco, you make our life so much easier if you just are dominant at the top. If you can start the World Cup semi-final well and bowl as fast and furious as you did, getting those edges, we're in this game. And for me, that's where I think this will be. And not worried about Rob, but yeah, look, look, in cricket, there's no secrets, right? But the only difference between teams is probably what happens in between here. And I think against our nemesis, which is New Zealand, they've obviously given us like our worst World Cup exit, even though we have a good record against them, right? But in playoffs, it's a problem. 2011 World Cup, they knocked us out. 2015, they knocked us out. But it's up here. It's in between the two ears. And I think that's where the coaching mismatch is. I think Shukri's a much better coach than Rob Walters. And I think you get that through that. And I think the difference is Shukri has these players playing so freely, not afraid to lose, not afraid to take risks, not afraid to experiment. And that's what this team is, right? You can, the game against Zimbabwe showed us one thing, right? No matter who you put on, they still bowl well. Gwena bowled exceptionally well yesterday. And so did Anuk Nokia. And they haven't been playing. George Linder also put up his hand, bat and ball. So, there's strength and depth, but also it's they're playing as one team. Everybody knows their plans. Everyone understands. And then the other thing I want to say before we go, Aiden's captaincy. Yes, this format, his captaincy outside of World Cups is horrible, his record. However, in World Cups, it's exquisite. It's amazing. I think he's only lost one game. And that tells you a lot. And the game was a final. So I'm really impressed by the brains trust, the leadership of Aiden and the other senior players. And that's kind of leading us through. And Aiden Markram becoming the best batter in the world. When are we going to have that discussion, Tim, where we then give Pretty Privileges flowers and say that, yeah, he we no longer have a Fab Four, but, Aiden might be in his own class and we must add players to that class, that Aiden Markram class of players.
I agree with you, but I'm going to put that on ice until he lifts the trophy.
Okay, so you must win it for us. Okay. Anyway, good luck to the Proteas against New Zealand. We play New Zealand on Wednesday at 3:30. And then if we get through, we'll probably do another podcast, a preview for the final, which will hopefully be might be England. Please let it be England. But I don't think it will be. It'll be India. And we're going to have to beat them twice, like we have to beat New Zealand twice. So that's the game there. So yeah, let's move over to the Proteas Women. They have won the ODI series. They won the T20 series 2-1. They won the ODI series 2-1. They didn't play. They lost the Black Day. And it was the last game in the series. They lost by 119 runs. Pakistan batted really well in Durban, and the Proteas Women just couldn't do it. It's the first series where Laura Wolfart did not contribute with the bat. Tim, are you worried? Is Laura playing too much cricket? Because when I look at this, our highest run scorer is Annery Dirksen, which is amazing. Well done, Annery. Sune Luce is second with 150 runs and an average of 75. But again, Laura failed to get over 100 runs in a 3-match series. Should I be worried?
No, I'm not worried the slightest. I'm looking at the positives, as you say. Annery Dirksen, leading run scorer for us, and Sune Luce getting player of the series. If you said to me those two things we could have out of the series, I would have said, "Thank you very much." I don't believe you, but I will take it. I'm not worried about it. I don't even think it's a blip. It just happens. Even with her extraordinary highs, I'm not worried in the slightest about Laura's form, in any way, shape, or form. What I am going to ask you, going to flip it on to you, though.
Mm-hmm.
Are you worried that Pakistan scored 300 against us twice at home?
Yes, I am. And it goes back to the whole Marizan argument, right? Our fast bowling stocks are very low in terms of like someone who can bowl 115 upwards, right? I think Marizan is there around 112 upwards, right? Which she still poses a threat because she bowls what everyone considers a heavy ball, right? It looks fast. It may not record as fast, but it looks threatening and scary. We don't have that type of a bowler. Shubnam was that bowler. Marizan was her partner. So you had an opening pairing of what I would consider. Andre now wasn't the fastest guy around. Yeah, when he was younger, he was, but in his mid to late 20s, he kind of settled around the late 130s, early 140s, right? If you look at Andre now and you look at Lungi Ngiti, Lungi does not look threatening and fast, but Andre now did. Even though when the ball came out of his hand, it was manageable, right? But it still caused problems. It's kind of like what Jacques Callis did, right? Because Jacques Callis, when he bowled, it hit the bat harder than normal. That's what Marizan gets you. Shubnam was pure pace. We don't have a pure pace option. We also don't have a I hit the bat hard option. What we have is effectively line and length bowlers, swing bowlers, similar to the mold of Lungi. But Lungi's difference is that Lungi's faster, is on the faster side. Aya is not on the faster side. She is 110 upwards. Ayanda Klubi is 110 upwards. So I have an issue there because in the women's game, if you have a pace option or a hard ball option like Marizan, you cause problems for any opposition, right? That's why in the men's side, we've gone to Corbin and all the other guys trying to get guys to bowl upwards of 145 because that is where we need guys to be. Reason why Bartman's not in the one day, is not at the World Cup, right? Gwena can crank it up, right? We don't have that. In the Dumi Sikukune is great, but Dumi just bowls between 100 and 105, right? It requires so much accuracy in order to do that. The good point is Faye Cowling, who I would have loved to see play, is one such option, right? She's young, she's growing into it, but if you look at her, you're like, okay, there is something, but we don't have other people. We're not like the men's side where if you take Marco out, you take Achiso out, you take Lungi out, and then you look around, there's Nandre Berger, there's Gerald Kutsia, there's Gwena, there's Gideon Peters I'm like waiting for the time where, you know, we have so many injuries and they throw the ball to Gideon Peters because you can bowl 150, right? We don't have that in the women's game. There are fast bowlers. Leah Jones is there from Western Province. She too is slightly faster than Dumi, but not as fast as Ayanda Klubi. So we need to work on that as a team. And it kind of shows in this, is that in the absence of Laba doing well or Sune Lease doing well with the ball as a spinner, from a fast bowling perspective, we're not penetrating at the top of the order. And that's the issue we have. And it's just a pace issue. Dumi is a fine bowler. Leah Jones, fine bowlers. Not for this format. Maybe in a test match format because you're going to want someone to bowl in wicket to wicket, end to end. And now that Ayabonga Kaka's not played, she didn't play in the series, that's kind of like the issue. Like Aya's got experience enough to kind of negate the pace issue. So that's where we are right now. It's a pace issue. And I think in T20s, it gets masked because of the fact that you're bowling 4 overs. You can get away with that a lot more than full 10 over spells. And there's girls, Ntabi Singh Nini from the Northwest, beautiful bowler. You can work with that. She's just 20 years old, right? So you need to build a little bit of muscle, work on some pace drills and try and get her up from where she is at probably about 105 to 110 to 110 to 115. Ayanda Klubi's done the work. You saw her now in the series and you're like, okay, she's improved in pace. You need to do that with everyone else. But the incremental change in pace, increase in pace requires a whole lot of body changes. And it's going to take time, and it's harder to gain that extra yard of pace than from starting from being a dibbly-dobbler to actually being a full-blown fast bowler. So that's what we saw. The great thing is we can chase whatever there's put down. So having Danae, having Chloe, having Laura batting down the order, having Tasman, having all of these people, you can do it. You just need to find. The problem is, where's that raw gem? The Fatima Sanas. Fatima Sana, Pakistan were trying to figure out who's going to take over from Diana Begg. Fatima Sana came through. We need that. Who is the next Shubnam Ismail? I'm running in as hard as I can, and I'm cranking it up to 125 because we can. England have that, right? We don't have that. Australia have that. We don't have that as yet, and that's the difference that we have. India don't have it, actually. India are like us. They're struggling, but that's my worry. I wasn't happy with the bowling in the ODIs, actually. I was not great. But in the T20s, we have some sort of a formula, and it works. Ayabonga Kaka bowls well, Masabata Klaus bowls well, and then you've got Aya Klubi, who is now the pacer, the enforcer of the pace. But in a one-day setting, it's not there.
Yeah. Longer formats, you need someone who's quicker, and and it makes sense. It makes sense, and let's hopefully we find one sooner rather than later.
Look, the under 19 setup is bringing through fast bowlers. You saw Ntabi Sengnini at the last World Cup. You saw Faye Cowling at the last World Cup. There were a handful. They just need to grow, and the problem is they're children. You have to grow into their bodies. Add a little bit more muscle. Get a little bit quicker, and it's there that between 19 and 25, 26, they can get there. And it's their peak development area from a fast bowling perspective. They can get there. It's just a matter of time. Even with Ayanda Klubi, we just need time. We don't have someone currently in the system who can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, are you worried about the fact that they're not completing series whitewashes? Or are you happy that they've just won the series?
Yeah. I suppose if I'm being honest, it annoys me when the men don't do it. It does. It rubs the wrong way when the men don't do it. It really does. It really does. Because all of these wins, they matter. That they matter towards the various qualifications and things. I would have to say yes, but not as much as perhaps it should do. I liked the fact. What I liked about both the series, to be honest, what was for me was the competitive nature of it. That is what I liked. I want our women's team to be challenged, and we were challenged in this series, both series. Yes, we won them, but we were definitely challenged, and there were moments where Pakistan could have gone over the line if they'd had an extra batsman or bowled slightly tighter lines. That to me is important, is that we are challenged in these competitions rather than just sailing. We play at home and we just dismantle our positions. So it does, but I look at the positives and go, we were pushed and we got over the line. That is more important than a 3-0 zip.
Yeah, no, we certainly were pushed, and I think we still have a long way to go in this format. And, there are places where people can come in. Just one last thing. I was commentating on a game yesterday between the Titans women and the DP World Lions women, and imagine my surprise seeing Lizelle Lee on the field. She scored a magnificent 50. in the T20 game, opening the batting for the Titans. But I kept on thinking that maybe Danae's U-turn affected more people than we thought. And then I try to figure out if there's a pathway for Lizelle to get back into this side. Because the fitness requirements are now off the table, right? That was made clear with the Danae thing. Not that Danae is unfit or anything. It's just that it's no longer a condition to kind of hold the players to. Yeah, I don't know, Tim. Just Lizelle Lee's floating around South Africa playing Pro 20 and Pro 50 cricket.
She's not coming back to South Africa. That's her. She's playing in Australia. She plays as a local. I would imagine playing as a local in Australia would make it complicated. I don't know the ramifications of it. What I said to you before we had this chat was, this is what I want. We now have a women's competition, which has backing behind it, Hollywood bets. And this weekend, we had 2 overseas players playing in the competition. That will benefit them, and it will benefit the young players coming through. We had an English player, I forget her name now.
Sophia Smale.
There we go.
Sophia Smale, under 19 England player. Yeah, she's an all-rounder.
And we had Lizelle, who now plays as a local player in Australia. So we had 2 overseas players playing in the competition, whereas we don't have that domestically outside of SA20 in the men's competitions because
but
essentially
the only
it isn't sponsored.
Thing is, Tim, that you have to remember is that the Titans have so much money. They have more money than the other unions.
I'm fully aware of that fact. I'm fully aware. But I mean, one player here or there does make a difference. But
no, it does.
I'm fully aware.
Okay, so I think congratulations to Mandla and the team and Laura on the series victory. We'll let you slide on the Black Day. I thought you would have wanted to win on such an important day, but look, these things happen. Pakistan batted really, really well. Shadav Shamaz batted so well for that 97. So really, really okay with that. I'm mad at not getting the whitewash, but we're on the right track. Just need to find that fast bowler, that pace bowler that we need to get. Okay, let's do the results and the fixtures quickly of the domestic, just to give you a sense of what's gone wrong, what's gone up where. One Day Cup had, let me just move the QR code. One Day Cup had Division 2 and Division 1 matches. The Inyati beat the Mpumalanga Rhinos by 98 runs. Lihle Sizani scoring 90 runs in that game. Easterns beat the Badgers by 4 runs in a rain-affected game at Willamore Park. Chris Brits with 72, Devon Murray with 70. SA Emerging lost their second game to the Knights. They lost to Limpopo earlier in the week, 100 by 1 wicket. Tian van Vieren was a close game with 3 for 19 in that game. Ruben Murray of SA Emerging, I assume, Tim, right?
No, sorry, they're both Knights players.
Okay, with 43. Yeah. Okay. And then in the last Division 2 game that we're covering, Limpopo beat Northern Cape. They scored 303 for 7. And it was it was destroyers in chief. You had Emmanuel Muturi with 5 for 34, and you had Ludwig Keisner scoring 165 for Northern Cape. Tyler Trenowith. Again, Tyler Trenowith, the Limpopo as well, scoring 56. I also saw in the game against the Emerging, Don Khadebe came back into reckoning with a couple of wickets that he got in that game. So really, really awesome to see. In Division 1, it started this weekend. Western Province went up to Johannesburg to play the Lions. They lost by 15 runs to Duckworth Lewis, or in a rain-affected game. David Bedingham scoring 103 for Western Province. You must be happy with that, Tim.
Delighted.
Yeah, and I have it under other news that Tony DeZorzi also scored a half century as well. So well done to Tony and David. Good to see Proteas doing big things. But the Lions, Bjorn Fortuin 2 for 39, and Mitchell van Buren scoring 88. I think it's 88 not out in the chase. Northwest, the East Val Northwest Dragons beat the Mutiram Tuskers by 72 runs, boiling them out for 219, having set 291 for 7. Mikael Prince scoring 61, Dian Foster scoring 68, and Onke Nyaku bowling for Northwest taking 6 for 41. The Titans beating Boerland in their retro kit. Boerland are wearing a retro kit to signify, I think it's 25 years since they last won the tournament, the One Day Cup. Luandra Pesoro scoring a century in that game. Grant Rulofson for Boerland scoring 62. And a youngster to watch, Keegan Leon Cachet, 37 not out for the Titans. So those are the quick results. Tim, any final words around the results of the week?
Just that the SA emerging ones, the Knights were 117 for 9. No, 117 for 7. Sorry, 117 for 7. And just got over the line, largely due to Rupert Maria's 43. It's a shame for SA emerging because the Knights are dominating Division 2. Outside of that, I will go Division 2 again. Ludwig Kostner last week made 142. So he's 142 and 165. So he's in a real purple patch.
Yeah, and that's against SA Emerging at 142 at the Dix Oval. Okay, let's go to the upcoming fixtures. We've got on Tuesday the One Day Cup Division 1 game between Western Province at the Warriors at Newlands. You then on Wednesday have got One Day Cup matches. In Division 2, the Inyati take on Easterns in Gugompo City, which is Buffalo Park in East London. Limpopo and Mpumalanga taking on Limpopo taking on Mpumalanga and Polokwane. SA Emerging taking on the Northern Cape Heat at the Dix Oval. In international cricket on Wednesday, the Proteas take on New Zealand at Eden Gardens in a World Cup semi-final at 3:30. And then from a One Day Cup perspective on Thursday in Division 2, the Free State, the Knights go to Oturan to be hosted by the Garden Route Badgers there. And then on Saturday in Division 1, you've got the Northwest Dragons taking on Boerland in Botch. Those are some of the fixtures that we have. We do know that after the World Cup, there will be a tour to New Zealand. Heck, Shuki's not coming home. Like, I feel sorry for the man. But anyway, that's okay. We're going to talk about that and all of that in the next coming weeks. We haven't forgotten about that because the Proteas Women are also going to New Zealand and their squad has been announced there. And we'll go into One Day Cup things as it goes along. It's the first week. It's bubbling under. It's just starting. We just need to let it simmer a bit. And then we'll talk about all of the domestic permutations because there's some relegation related things. And I think that Tuskers versus Titans game is going to be something else. But yeah, Tim, any final words as we go through to the end of the show?
Can someone from Boerland please tell us where to get that kit? Because that kit is awesome. Really, really awesome.
That retro kit. Okay, but you're on that side of the world, so I'm not gonna get a Boerland kit. But if you want to send it to us, as in Boerland PR, you can. I don't mind wearing a Boerland kit to support Boerland. But yeah, you know where my loyalties lie if you've been watching this show for the last 4 years. But hey, I don't mind. I do not mind. My loyalties actually goes to the highest bidder. So currently the highest bidder is the one that lives in my city. But if you want to change that, any of the other teams, happy to do that. If you want to send me a Northwest Dragons kit, I'll do that. That type of thing. Like I am that loose with my alliances right now. But anyway, good luck to everyone this week. Good luck, especially to the Proteas men. Get to that final, boys. Get to that finals. One game at a time. Get through New Zealand, and then we have a dance with the devil once more. And this time, I think we can win. Outside of that, for myself and Tim, it's goodbye and le sale kakagiso.